Twilighters. So excited, honored, and privileged to have you all here with us again this week, as we do every week here on Twilight Garage. What are we doing? We're exploring that thing known as the Charles Manson phenomenon and all that it encompasses. Casey, we left off last time. We had your fine presence here as my wonderful co-host, Mr. Casey Fields. We left it off with Kasabian, and then I was ruminating personally around the property, stoned to the bone the other day, talking about post-Tate night, texts reflecting, and the people just hanging around, lolling about the ranch, holding on to something. I couldn't imagine the transformation. And that's where I left it. So let's kind of get into the frame of mind at the ranch in preparations for the second night, which is always misunderstood. The most unfortunate victims in this whole thing's the LaBianca couple. Of course, we're talking about Lino and Rosemary LaBianca. So, Casey.
Yeah, so, they jumped into Johnny Schwartz's Ford Galaxy, right? And I don't know how they jammed 7 deep in that thing.
Can you imagine?
You got Charlie driving, Linda's sitting in the middle, Grogan's in front passenger seat, and then the back seat, remember the back seat was ripped out?
Yep.
So 3 of them were sitting on the floorboard, and then one of them was laying across the laps of the other 3.
Great Lord, squalid hippie conditions, even in egress.
So they jumped on the road, and Charlie had to stop and get gas. And then they when they got back in, Linda now drove into Pasadena, got off at Fair Oaks, drove around this neighborhood. They stopped at a house, allegedly, according to Linda. And Charlie got out and looked into the house that had pictures of children, decided this is not the house we're going to rob tonight. And they took off. They went to a church, allegedly. And I heard that Charlie tried to pull open the doors, but it was locked. So they had to move right along. Now, looking at what Linda said, she said that they drove down to LA and to the very end of Sunset. And she said, then we went west on Sunset. So I was looking at it, I was like, gosh, that's really close to back where I used to work by Dodger Stadium. I worked over there off of Beaudry and Sunset.
Right.
And right there at where the 110 is, on one side of the 110, it's Sunset. On the other side, it's now Cesar Chavez.
Right.
But back then it was called Brooklyn Avenue.
That's right.
So Linda got in. Now she's driving down Sunset. They took it way deep, almost as far as the beach. For whatever reason, they did a U-turn. They started coming back the opposite way, on going east now on Sunset. They pull up to the stoplight, and this is the infamous story of the white Ferrari.
Oh, that Jerry West claims was him. Everyone likes to associate themselves, especially if these people are celebrities, or oftentimes second or third tier celebrities who are a little bit out of focus, say like a Mike Love or a Jerry West. Why would we remember Jerry West, children? Simply for being the coach of the LA Lakers.
And he's also the logo of the NBA, the league logo.
Right. So he's a former NBA star, used to being in the limelight. I tend to think he heard this story and applied it to himself. I think that's way too much coincidence.
And also in August of 1969, it wasn't even the NBA season yet. Season doesn't get started for a couple more months.
Absolutely.
So there's no even guarantee that he was in LA at that time.
But I love how people can apply themselves to these stories, a la Tom O'Neill, after everyone's conveniently dead and can't identify anyone. It's funny.
And so allegedly they're stopped at the stoplight, and according to Linda, Charlie says, we got to kill this guy. And they try to get out. Well, as soon as he gets out of the car, the light turns green and the Ferrari is just gone. So I don't even know if the owner of the Ferrari even knew that they were about to,
And that's the only reason why Jerry West was ever able to claim that story, is he owned a Ferrari. Like, oh boy. And so
he must have read Helter Skelter, or somebody told him about it.
Exactly. And he needed to find himself in this story. And that's partially why when I was a kid, it was repugnant. Anybody who wanted to cling on to this story or attach themselves to it in Ridgecrest, when I was growing up, you're a turd. You're on the turd side. We're the townies. We're holding shit down. We got the guns. We're white. This is our place. You little scumbags come up from the flatland with your little duty ass ways, shitting up the desert, acting like scumbags. You know, that was the whole predominant mindset. I had zero attraction to this. That's why it's so funny to have all these people in this milieu after we became a little bit of a broadcast. Some people were upset. Like, who's this skull-faced Rogerson loser guy? He doesn't have any right to say anything. And hey, that's fine, whatever. But this stuff was gross and stupid. And listen to these stories. Anything associated with this was the most harebrained of loser schemes in the world. So we're supposed to believe these teenagers have all of a sudden become gangland slayers in the form of a drive-up shooting with firearms in the middle of Hollywood. Yeah, or not so much. But would you say if any of these things happened, or even just the second night of murder there at the La Biancas, do you feel these were crimes of opportunity, and that's all it really was, is they were just pushing the hand? Someone was going to get it, but it was strictly opportunity?
I believe that on Friday night they were sent out for a specific purpose to bring back the money needed to bail out Mary and Sandra.
Okay.
The second night, because they did such a horrific job on Friday night, Charlie told him, allegedly, right? And that's what I'm going off of. It's just what's been said. So I don't really know, but that you guys made a mess of it. You took the wrong weapons. I'm going to go with you and I'm going to show you how it's done. Now, when they finally make it into the Los Feliz area, and Charlie and Linda have this argument about, True still lives. No, he doesn't. She, really had no idea. Charlie knew True was gone, but they drive up to Harold True's old house next door to the La Biancas on Waverly. Charlie gets out, walks up True's driveway. There's like a little cinder block wall that was only a couple feet high. Jumps that into by himself. Now they're all waiting back at the car. Goes in through the La Bianca's side yard, goes in, ties them up, comes back out, and this is when he grabs Tex, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Leslie Van Houten, sends them in. Now, I think it was to do another robbery. Linda says that he sent them there to nuke the La Biancas, to take them out.
Let's pause right there. That, for me, I want to give some what do they call props now? Okay. I want to compliment George Stimson on his account of that in his book, Goodbye Helter Skelter, because that account to me, I believe, came directly from Charlie, and it is harrowing. It is a scary thing. It sounds very accurate. It puts you in the perpetrator's literal pants. You walk through the opening sequence of these crimes knowing what happened later in real history, and it is just a real heart-thumping account. So that made me look at this very differently. A. B, I look at these crimes of opportunity based on everyone's experience at these crime scenes.
Mhm.
Both of these attacks, following 2 previous attacks, were in areas that they knew quite well and had been. We got
Mhm.
Hinman.
Yep.
The only one that was sketchy was them running up on Bernard Crowe.
Mhm.
That was the one thing that was really counter to their methodology.
Yeah.
It seemed to be home invasion, as our dear friend of the broadcast, Ms. Claudia Verhoeven, Dr. Verhoeven, has pointed out in her fine book, Love and Terror, which I really hope you've picked up by now. She talks about the amount of terror that was instilled immediately. And I think that
Mhm.
is a very interesting point. I think they inflicted the same amount of violence and fear on Hinman
Yeah.
via Bobby and Charlie and whoever else you want to
Yep.
attribute to having been there, Bruce Davis's participation or lack thereof. But that's where the terror began. These visually curated crime scenes, these victims' blood messages. You're
Mhm.
writing messages in your victim's blood for law enforcement or whomever to find. You're curating a crime scene. That is an exceptionally
Yeah.
disturbing development in
Mhm.
a homicide thing. So then they repeat these motifs.
Yeah.
Because I believe if the gun would have been functioning better, if people were more keyed up, perhaps on different drugs, I don't know what the variables would have been. But I feel the Bernard Crowe situation could have turned out very, very differently.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of it was humor because the gun wasn't working, click, click, click. And then finally it did. And it was like, oh, fuck, but he wasn't dead.
Mhm.
But did they know he was dead? Who knew he was dead? Who didn't know he was dead?
Yeah.
Whatever. So you've got all these variables in the room. And I think Charlie, from what Lynn told me that TJ relayed to her, was that they're all hot and sweaty. It's summer. There's all this shit going on. And they're in the LA basin, right?
Mhm.
He had walked in. He'd complimented dude's leather
Sure. Yeah.
blouse. Like, hey, man, I really like that thing. So all this goes down. And then on the way out, Charlie suggests, hey, man, how about you fess up out of that leather top after I popped your fucking roommate, bro? And the guy's like, yeah, sure. I'll just raise up out this piece. Well, then Lynn tells me that he goes to put it on. Well, it's a clammy, hot, sweaty piece of crap that's made out of animal hide. He's sticky. Everyone's sticky. He goes to put it on, and it's like a children's book. I'm still stuck, right? Still stuck. He can't get his head through the thing. The arms are in there. The gun is right here. What has previously malfunctioned and then fired upon the very focus of this visit, right? Got 2 intense white boys smelling a certain way. I don't know how Charlie smelled, but I can never, ever, ever in my life forget the way TJ smelled ever.
Wow.
TJ Haldeman had his own scent. It wasn't offensive. It was a rugged scent. It wasn't gross. It was this manly, musky thing I'll never flip and forget.
Sweet ass.
And that was him, dude. And so he's in there with these people and the whole place smelling like nutsack and men's, right? Some hooker's fantasy. Oh, girl, that's money in there. Child, let me in there. I got my knee pads. So there's all this rugged manliness, and then the whole thing gets broken by Charlie being totally vulnerable. They could have jumped on him. You know what I mean? Beat the out of him, pulled the gun on TJ, and been just clicking away at it. Like, oh, you like that? Nope. He leaves with the leather top that he wound up arrested in. And then fare thee well. And then what of Bernard Crowe? You know, who we never get to hear about until, you know, the trial, which is just an incredible display. So we've put all this out there because of this excitement and what led to the second night.
Yeah, so we're in this case largely going off of Linda Kasabian's August 28th or August 18th, 1971 testimony in the Tex Watson trial. Now, this is volume 7, asterisk, for those of you that are familiar with
if you're
Cielo
following
Drive.
along on cielodrive.com with our dear friend Bo.
So on the second half of that transcript is this 18th of August. So she's going into detail about all this. Now, Linda says that Charlie went in by himself. I have a hard time believing that. I think that 2 of them went in, tied up only Lino LaBianca. Rosemary was not tied up, but somebody kept a gun on him while Charlie went out and got.
You think it was Grogan?
I think it was probably Tex, but
okay.
It could have been Atkins. I don't know. But anyways, Charlie comes back, sends the girls inside.
Oh, so Tex comes out of the back of the car because we've got Charlie, Linda, and then Grogan. That's why I was suggesting
it may have been Steve. Yeah.
That's a lot, man.
It's weird though, because Susan Atkins got convicted of the LaBianca murders, yet according to the mainstream narrative, she never even left the car. She was sleeping inside of the car and making out with Grogan and stuff. But
right.
Anyways, Linda says that they have a conversation in the car and drive off, and Charlie drives out to Sylmar, right? But Linda says something interesting that I didn't realize before. She said that she was supposed to get rid of Rosemary's wallet before they went out there. So I don't know if she was supposed to throw it out the window or what, but she said once they got on the freeway, she knew that she
had a liability.
Yeah, she had a liability. Okay. So they went out to Sylmar. She walked in the gas station. Man, I've been there a million times. Yep. Right there by the 210.
It's right there. Still is.
Yep. Went in the ladies' room, put it in the tank reservoir, stuck it in there. Charlie goes next door to Denny's, ate at that Denny's too a bunch of times.
Hella.
Gets some chocolate milkshakes, right? And they get back on the road. Now, this is another thing that I had wrong in my mind, if I believe Lindsay here. She says that they went down to a hill down there by the beach, parked the car, walked down the hill to the beach, and just were walking along it. She said, Charlie and I were holding hands. Now, this wasn't Venice Beach, because later on that night, they drive to Venice Beach. I kind of wonder if it might have been Dockweiler Beach.
Right there in Santa Monica.
Yeah, which
up above.
There's a hill going up, which is like a extended
big old
emergency runway.
Right.
If you overshoot the LAX runway, right?
Oh, that's why that's all built up.
Yeah, there's a whole like vacant area.
Giant.
Yep.
That's what that is.
Yeah, so it's undeveloped land even to this day.
It's kind of like
I think that they probably the important part is Linda's talking about her and Charlie walk on the beach hand in hand.
Please.
She said she felt like a young love, you know, and a girl infatuated. He made her feel all nice, you know, and so. But here's the part that I think is kind of cool and crazy. She says when they were on the beach, they walked up to a police officer.
Oh,
and Charlie playing it real cool said, "Hey man, hey, what's your name? My name is Charles Manson." You know, going back and forth. I think that Charlie was trying to establish an alibi. The reason that they walked up to this officer
was to have it noted in his mind.
That I met a guy named Charles Manson at around this time on this night down way down at the beach.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, he had an alibi for the first night in Nancy Pittman fitting his garments up at the side of the Young Love, the waterfall there in Devil's Canyon overlooking Spawn Ranch itself, a little bit less than 2 miles away.
Yeah, that's right.
And so James Dawson, our dear friend from Argentina, Mr. James Dawson, brought that up for me, which will be of much relevance, and excitement in the next couple of years. Kids, hold on. Beautiful stuff coming out of this. But I always found that kind of mystifying because the whole Venice Beach thing, the whole going down, the allegedly, the finding the actor. And
we'll get to that next.
Oh, sorry. But this whole thing, this evolving story, I wondered why they would make themselves so visible so far away after. Like, why go through all that hassle? Why didn't you just cut back home? I hadn't considered that. Y'all, alibi time for Charlie. That's a good take.
Linda said she didn't say anything to the officer. She said she was scared to death because
like,
knowing that there's a murder going on at that time.
Got it.
Yeah.
Why would you draw attention to yourself? Why would you do that? That's very.
But Charlie's just loose. He's having a good time going rapping back and forth with this officer.
He hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
What has he done?
Yep.
Drove some kids around.
Yeah. So after this interaction, they jump in the car and now they drive up to Venice Beach, which is just a short, probably a 5-minute drive away.
Okay. Understand.
Yeah. And Charlie starts asking him, do you guys know anybody in the area? Linda says they all said no. I think it was kind of a test by Charlie because he says, Linda, what about that guy that you and Sandy met the other day?
And we heard about Sandy.
Yeah. So she knew that
to a mixed race guy.
She didn't tell Charlie that story. So Sandy must have told that story.
Yeah.
But so then now she's in a predicament, right? Oh yeah, Charlie, I do know where that guy lives. Right? So they drive to Saladin Nader's apartment right there on the beach, 5-story building. It's still there.
I know right where it is.
Beautiful
dead ass next door
right
to
on the side.
Yep. I tattooed next to her for years.
Wow. So also really close to the Straight Satan's clubhouse.
Absolutely.
So we'll get to that. But they get out of the car. Charlie says, go ahead and take out this guy. So that these kids walk in there. It's Steve Grogan, Susan Atkins, and Linda Kasabian. They go up to the 4th floor, her knowing that the apartment that her and Sandy went in was on the 5th floor. So she intentionally goes to the wrong door, knocks on it. Someone answers. She says, oh, the wrong person, comes back and tells the other two. When they go back down, Charlie's gone. He's already driven off.
So
in my opinion, he went to the Straight Satan's clubhouse within walking distance, or he went to go get more money. Now that night, many researchers believe that he hit up Greg Jacobson and Dennis Wilson for cash. Jacobson later on said that Charlie did come over in the middle of the night asking for money. He also went up to Melba Cronkrit's house and asked her for money. She did have money, but she basically lied to him because she was worried and everything. So she sent him on his way.
Interesting character.
Yeah. Now, these 3 kids, though, that are at Saladin Nader's apartment. Oh, let me go back real quick to that.
Please.
Last weekend in July, Sandra Good and Linda Kasabian were hitchhiking down to the beach. They got picked up allegedly by Saladin Nader, this actor in Hollywood, who gave them a ride. They first got gas, and they went to his apartment.
Yeah, right there on
Venice. Fed him a little bit. Apparently, according to George, Sandra had a headache, so she laid down and took a nap in the living room on his couch. Linda goes into the bedroom and has a good old time.
That's what I'm saying. Sandy's account was like a little, She doesn't usually dish like that, but I think they had a real special contempt for Linda. And it wasn't really hard to dirt her because that's the thing. Interestingly, these quote unquote Manson girls, they're not liars. They may say wild stuff or take a different approach to things and have a completely different perspective that makes it seem a little wild, but they're not liars. And you think about that, just to dish on Linda because all the things Sandy saw that she just let slide or pass that she knew would be questionable to recall No problem throwing Linda under the bus. And that's all I've ever heard is she was this very shrewd operator. Very
She was a
shrewd
good time
operator.
girl.
Whoop.
She was down.
Woo.
DTF.
Get
So
it,
I guess
girl.
in the last week of July, this is right
Woo,
after the
woo.
Gary Hinman murder.
Ugh.
Saladinator, after being with the girls, hanging out with them, he drives them back to the vicinity of Spawn Ranch and drops them off. So apparently somehow this word got back to Charlie about this actor. Well, Linda theoretically, I mean, saved this guy's life that night because she knew which apartment he was in, but she didn't want to see any more bloodshed.
Did anybody else back up her statements? Because I think they have, right? There's other people like Grogan or other people who
yeah, some of this
qualified these.
you're right. Some of this has been addressed by Susan and by Grogan
because
in
for
other
me,
trials.
it just seemed kind of far out. Like, are they just tacking this shit on? Because I always wondered if Linda was just trying to get a pass. Like, well, you know, I did ride along for like 2 nights of murder, and maybe I went in and helped out with Susan. Just, I mean, you know what I mean? Just like a little with like Sharon Tate, just like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because the way she told it later, when she'd had a little whifty gifty and maybe found herself in a tavern in the Pacific Northwest under the influence of methamphetamines and alcohol, maybe she had a little bit of a different story that was told to civilians that had no reason to make anything up or knew anything about the case. So the details they got were obviously from the horse's mouth. So here she is, a lot more guilty than she's portraying herself.
Yeah.
So I just assumed she kind of tacked that on for like a get out of jail free card. Like, it shows, Your Honor, that my client, that kind of reasoning.
Yeah.
And so I always really discounted her. I just never could really put any stock in the shit she said. So the fact that Greg and these other people have backed these statements up and that this part of it happened for me is more mystifying about the second. The second night is weird.
It is.
Like, what? You guys are looping around. You go next door, and I'm convinced the reason why they hit next door, I think they'd spent a great deal of time in the LaBianca's home before. I don't know why that didn't come out in the testimony.
Summer of 1968.
I think they were there a lot of the summer. I think they had 4 or 5, like you've always pointed out. They had a minimum of 3 bug out places for the group. If something happened, they had a minimum of 3 bug out places. 3 of them were called ranches that we know of.
Yeah.
The third one you're going to explore here on the show very soon. Hopefully after your book comes out so we don't blow a bunch of neat stuff. But that being said, that's the exact kind of place they would have to bug out to. It's right there in the city. It's perfect. It had been vacant for some time, mysteriously. Nice piece of property.
Perfect party house. Linda said that True had a strobe light in there. They'd bump in the music. The wine was flowing. The drugs were flowing.
So then what do? You go next door to the vacant little house with a dozen of your friends. You stay over there. That's where the fucking happens. That's where the real dope goes down. And that's where you kind of have your privacy. But it's all revolving around this party. And then you want to make some money. You want to get some more goodies. That's how it all happens. The excitement is on True. You have zero of the liability of the party, all the fun of the party, all the money-making capabilities and contacts of a party, but then you have your own over-the-hedge private place to go. So they got candles in there. You know, they're adept with their bedrolls. And they're a good little unit. So,
and True and his buddies were some frat boys, basically.
It's true.
I mean, they had money and they were in college getting their master's degrees, which is a weird mixture of these groups.
And it's more common than you would think. I was around a bunch of those types of people over the years. PhDs. You got your Gary Hinmans. You have these very sensitive people who are overeducated from these very sensitive loving, caring backgrounds. You hear Harold True's voice. That guy is not somebody who's a very savory character. You can see he's had every benefit of life, and he doesn't give a shit. He's an entitled, white, middle-class fucking prick.
Mhm.
He's an imposing guy. He threw his weight around. He enjoyed drugs. He enjoyed his education. He's the kind of dude who would be in the middle of a party, high on coke, debating Socrates for fucking 10 hours straight, and then like brag about it for the rest of remember Socrates.
Yeah.
And then his boys would have to back him up. Boy, yeah, boy.
You know, it's
Like,
funny.
all those frat dude, I hated those dudes. The guy who edited my first film, dude, I hung with him like I had to for years. Guy had me held hostage. Fucking frat boy, dude. Like all that money, all that shit. They want to hang around and make like veal parms and shit. Like, what are we doing here, fellas? What, we're gonna go to Dave and Buster's, and then that's code for coke and hookers afterwards. Like, you're gonna get all coked up, go to Dave and Buster's, play all these weird games, quote fucking macho man to each other a bunch, and then go get hookers and all kind of look over each other, high-fiving as you bang these hookers in a hotel room. Like, what?
And that's what's funny is Phil Kaufman, which was
I'm sick.
Phil Kaufman, who was buddies with True, right?
Right.
He said True couldn't get laid with a fistful of 20s in a whorehouse.
Exactly. And the way the dude talks is just such a flipping meat. And if you got Kaufman, who was always a little creep, you know what I mean? You see him as an old man now with the cane. Well, I think that's more his true nature. I think that's who he was the whole time. And he just had a big frame and got away with it for a long time. The Road Mangler. That guy's a very interesting character. But yeah, that legacy of Harold True is a very strange one. He didn't live very long.
No.
He didn't prosper. Spock was not his friend. Like Roddenberry definitely wrote him out of the first season. He was a guy in the red uniform there on Star Trek. If you ever watched that first generation.
So True and his boys were gone by September of 68,
which is
he went off to, I think, Ethiopia in the Peace Corps, which is a way of paying back part of your way, get your education paid for,
or to show off to girls when you come back.
You're all,
I was in Ethiopia with the Peace Corps. 68 into 69, babe.
While people are serving in Nam, bro.
Getting the shit shot out of them. You don't know if you're going to see fucking 5 minutes from now. The average fighting age of the soldier in Vietnam was 19. I remember that song. And then the whole thing with helicopter pilots. Your combat average lifespan active combat, half a second. The people who made it through were so exceptional. If you've got a stepdad or granddad out there who's all fucking gimped out and can barely talk and hates you, he was probably a tail guy on some Huey. Just plinking the zipper heads. So that all went down. Him being alive is such an exceptional thing. You have no idea what a miracle of Christ he is. Just abusing your mom and just wrecking your household with his toxic nature and just hucking down the Cuddy Sark by the gallon and just being a total leech on society. Just incredible stuff. Those guys were doing that in real time as young men coming back. These guys are boys. Do you see Grogan's nipples? They're kind of supple and young and hot.
This is gonna get clipped.
Versus these guys who came back from Vietnam, real men at the same time.
TJ Wallman, Juan Flynn, Dave Lipsett.
Not playing. Karate Dave could have in your flipping neck with his bare hands. Like a real flipping man. Mixing with these kids. Like what a wacky strata.
Yeah, it is.
Like I didn't experience that. I experienced the PhDs because I was a drug dealer and they had money, and they were these cretins
Yeah.
wanting to expand their minds.
Mhm.
So you show up with some good liquid acid and some weed, you're gonna be able to hang out and learn a bunch of shit you wouldn't normally be
Mhm.
exposed to. And then these people are eating food and doing things I had no idea, like
Mhm.
Thai food.
Wow.
I am a child from Ridgecrest, California. The first time I experienced Thai food, that was a bit of a revelation. I was getting pawned off. I was getting
would you have pad Thai?
And other things. I got basically pushed out of a van in Dallas, Texas in 1988 at that middle show. There's a flyer over here. And I'm in Dallas with the Butthole Surfers. They leave me on the side of the road. And Gibby's all like, hey, man, sorry, I got your granny's. I got her quilt. Because I was using my granny's quilt. He said, I'll get your granny's quilt back. Swear to God. Texans owner. Hey, man, I got you some, the hotel's up there. So I had to hoof it to the hotel. Dude, I'm eating Thai food as I walk. This stuff was incredible. These people were just the minds on these folks. So it was a normal thing to have these losers like true slum.
Yeah.
With people who are not the highest of society and really learn from these people. We brought something.
Mhm.
We brought a lot to the table for these people. We rounded out their cultural experience and gave them humanity
Mhm.
where they exposed us to letters and other ways of looking at life that were a lot more cynical, that were a lot more money-based, and were a lot more about opportunity. These people, like you said, who the heck goes to Ethiopia in 1968?
It's crazy.
Dude, you got to be a pretty... You're thinking on some other levels. Haile Selassie is still in power. Tafari Mokonnen is running Ethiopia.
Good knowledge.
Good Lord. The man who'd been personally whipped by Mussolini.
Wow.
Rebuked. So we're there, and these people are mixing, and that's why this case will never die, because the strata involved.
And I find all these things, they're all interesting.
Nuances.
It's not all about the murders, right?
No.
It's about there's so many other pieces of history to learn about.
So then we've moved off of Charles talking to this cop. Now the cop, I've never heard the cop recall it.
Yeah, no, I don't even know who the cop is.
Right.
Next episode, we'll go ahead and revisit this, and we'll come back. And we appreciate you guys for just joining us tonight. Another great episode.
Dude, he just floated out to on the next episode. My geez, that was beautiful. Did you see that, people?
I'm not a podcaster, man.
You're a broadcaster. It's a much classier and dignified thing. That was... Anyway, we're growing in love and experience here with your kind indulgence. We thank you all very much, especially our regulars who appear here in the chat, especially coming in live. We can't thank you enough for all of your kindnesses, and especially our dear friend, Mr. Sam Smith. I want to thank him for something we cannot discuss yet because it is
real soon.
Powerful. And
Sam knows what we're talking about.
Buddy, I'm a little verklempt on that one. I gotta say, Sam, for you to share that with us, as a friend, knowing how far we're gonna run with it was of great trust and kindness and an extreme gift. And that's why we're here, because we are not seeing a nickel. We're seeing your love, and that's the highest form of compliment. Thank you, Twilighters.